It's November 22nd, 1987, Chicago, a Sunday night. A sportscaster is mid-sentence, recapping a Bears game, when the picture cuts to black. 15 seconds later, something appears on the screen. A man in a rubber mask, swaying, twitching. Behind him, a sheet of corrugated metal spins like a cheap special effect from a show everyone in America recognized. He says nothing. There's just a buzz. 20 seconds and he's gone. Engineers scramble. They think it's a glitch, a backup tape, some intern's prank. Then, 2 hours later, he comes back. This time on a different channel, a different signal. And this time he doesn't stay quiet. For 90 seconds, this masked figure rants, sings, hums a cartoon theme song, insults a sportscaster by name, and does something so bizarre that PBS engineers just sit there frozen, watching their own broadcast tower get hijacked in real time. No ransom note, no political message, no group claiming responsibility. The FBI investigated, the FCC investigated. Nobody was ever caught. This is the story of the only unsolved television piracy case in American broadcast history. And the question that still haunts engineers nearly 40 years later. How did he even do this? To understand why this terrified people, you have to understand what television was in 1987. There was no internet in American living rooms, no streaming, no way to interrupt a broadcast signal, unless you physically controlled the broadcast tower. Television was sacred. It was the one thing in your home that simply worked. You turned the dial, and what came out was controlled, scheduled, approved. Chicago, that November, was an ordinary American city watching ordinary American television. WGN-TV, Channel 9, was running its 9 o'clock news. The sports anchor was on screen, walking through highlights of the Chicago Bears' win over the Detroit Lions. Routine, familiar, the kind of broadcast nobody thinks twice about. Then at 9:14 p.m., the screen went black. For a moment, nothing. Then static, then him. A man in a mask and sunglasses, rocking unsteadily in front of a swaying corrugated metal panel, built to mimic a TV character's signature look. If you don't know who that character was, in the mid-1980s he was everywhere. A stuttering, glitching, computer-generated talking head used to sell soda, host a talk show, and headline a primetime sci-fi series about a dystopian future run by television networks. He was the face of a satire about media control. And now, someone was wearing that exact face to seize control of real media. The irony, whether intentional or not, was sitting right there on the screen. The first intrusion lasted barely 20 seconds. No clear words, just a low buzzing sound under the masked figure's jerky, swaying movements. To viewers at home, it looked like a broken transmission, some technical failure at the station. Inside WGN's control room, it was something else entirely. Engineers immediately assumed an internal problem. Someone inside the building, maybe an employee with a sick sense of humor, had gotten access to the broadcast chain. They scrambled to switch the studio link to a backup transmitter. Within seconds, the signal cut back to the anchor, visibly thrown, but recovering on live television like the professional he was. He looked into the camera and said, almost laughing, "Well, if you're wondering what's happened, so am I." He picked the broadcast back up and kept going, like nothing happened. Behind the scenes, it was a different story. Staff searched the building floor by floor, looking for an intruder, a rogue employee, anyone with access to broadcast equipment. They found nothing, No intruder in the building, no employee out of place. Because the broadcast hadn't come from inside the station at all. Whoever did this wasn't in the building. They were somewhere outside, beaming a stronger signal directly at WGN's broadcast tower, strong enough to completely override what the station itself was transmitting. That should have been impossible without serious specialized equipment, and whoever pulled it off vanished as quickly as they appeared. WGN moved on. The incident got chalked up to a one-time fluke. Nobody at that station, or anywhere in Chicago, had any idea this was only the beginning of the night. 2 hours later, at 11:15 p.m. across town, viewers of a PBS station, Channel 11, were settled in for a rerun of a British sci-fi series with a devoted American cult following. And then, mid-episode, the picture broke apart. The program vanished from the screen. In its place, the same masked figure from 2 hours earlier. Same mask, same swaying corrugated background. Except this time there was audio, garbled, distorted, but audible. And this time the intrusion didn't last 20 seconds, it lasted 90. In the control room, the staff watched in real time, completely powerless. The reason was almost absurd. There were no engineers on duty at the station's transmitter tower that night. Nobody was physically positioned to flip the switch and cut the signal. So the hijacker just kept going. He rambled. He referenced a local sportscaster by name, mocking him directly. He sang a fragment of a 1960s soul song. He hummed the theme tune from an old cartoon. He held up a soda can, riffing on a popular ad slogan from that era. It felt unscripted, chaotic, almost performance art, like watching someone improvise live on a stolen stage, fully aware that thousands of people across Chicago were watching him do it. And then it got stranger. Toward the end of the broadcast, the masked figure pulled off the mask itself, keeping his face just out of frame, and the segment ended in deliberately crude, almost juvenile chaos, with a second figure briefly joining him. Then as suddenly as it started, the signal cut to black. The original program resumed like nothing had happened. The station's phone lines lit up immediately. Viewers calling in, confused, some laughing, some unsettled, all asking the same question. What did we just watch? What happened next should have been simple. 2 television stations in the same city, hijacked on the same night, 2 hours apart. Surely someone could trace this. They couldn't. Both the Federal Communications Commission and the FBI opened investigations. What they found only deepened the mystery. To hijack a broadcast signal in 1987, you didn't need a computer or a modem. You needed something far more specialized. A microwave transmitter powerful enough to override a television station's own signal at the source, and a direct line of sight to that station's broadcast tower. In downtown Chicago, both stations' towers sat atop some of the tallest buildings in the city. That meant whoever did this needed access to equipment that was expensive, restricted, and not something you'd casually find for sale. They needed real technical knowledge of broadcast engineering, and they needed to physically position that equipment somewhere with a clean signal path to not 1, but 2 separate towers. Investigators floated a theory that quietly disturbed broadcast engineers across the country. This wasn't some kid messing around with his dad's tools. This looked like the work of someone with professional-level access, maybe even someone employed inside the broadcast industry. But no leads solidified. No equipment was ever recovered. No fingerprints, no confession, no informant. The PBS station even offered a cash reward for information leading to the hijacker's identity. Nobody ever came forward. The case went cold almost as fast as it had opened, leaving behind one of the strangest unsolved files in the history of American broadcasting. For decades, this story lived mostly in grainy VHS recordings, kept alive by fans who happened to have their VCRs running that night. Without those recordings, there'd be almost no surviving footage of the second broadcast at all. When the internet arrived, those recordings found a second life. The clip spread across early video sharing sites, then YouTube, then true crime and unsolved mystery communities that latched onto a single, unanswered question: who was under that mask? Theories have circulated for years. Disgruntled broadcast engineers, college students with access to university transmission equipment, a statement on media control dressed up as a prank that simply got out of hand. None of it has ever been confirmed. And here's the detail that makes this case almost impossible to ever solve now. Experts agree this exact stunt could not be repeated today. American television stations switched from analog to digital broadcasting back in 2009. That switch closed the exact technical vulnerability the hijacker exploited. Which means this incident isn't just unsolved, it's frozen in time. A crime that belongs entirely to one narrow technological window that no longer exists. It will likely never happen again on American television, in this exact way, which is part of why it still fascinates people decades later. Nearly 40 years later, the hijacker has never been identified. No deathbed confession, no anonymous tip that checked out. No forensic breakthrough. Whoever planned this, and the planning required real precision, hitting two separate stations on the same night with the right equipment, in the right place, simply walked away and never looked back. For 90 seconds, in November of 1987, someone proved that even something as trusted and fixed as broadcast television could be seized mid-sentence by a complete stranger in a mask. And then they vanished into a static that no one has ever been able to trace. That masked face still shows up online today, a strange, glitchy symbol now permanently linked to one of broadcasting's strangest unsolved nights. Somewhere, the person behind that mask may still be alive, may have watched documentaries about their own crime, may have read theories online about who they were, and said nothing. This is the truth they buried. If you want to go deeper into America's strangest unsolved cases, subscribe to Atomic Dark. New investigations every Friday.